Well, thank you, Kelly, for joining me on Literacy Journeys with Linda. We're going to get started. Oh my gosh, you have on a t-shirt.
Yes, Black Literacy Matters. This is actually a t-shirt that I designed, and then I have a second design of the shirt as well.
I'd love for you to tell me and the audience who you are. I know you're Dr. Kelly Byrd.
I am. I'm from St. Louis. I wrote a book called Like Sunshine on an Otherwise Miserable Day, which I have right here.
Yes, please.
This is the book here.
Ooh, oh, look at that.
Yeah, this is the book here. Then I also have a nonprofit called Love for Literacy. And it's, in short, it is an organization really designed to support and promote literacies in Black families and children. And so that's it, I think, in a nutshell.
We are kindred spirits.
Yes, I believe that, absolutely. Or one of the big events that I do with that organization is a book drive and book giveaway that I do in honor of Miss McKissack, Patricia McKissack, who we know and adore as a really incredible children's book author. She was such a down-to-earth, just incredible person, but an impeccable author. And so, you know, when she passed, I knew I really wanted to do something in honor of her. I collect brand new Black children's books for kids ages pre-K through 5th grade. It was really important to me to make sure that the books were new. And that there would be a variety of books for the kids to choose from. I'm excited about that work. And again, that's all done in honor of Miss McKissack. In fact, that's what I call it, the Patricia McKissack book giveaway.
I love it. I bet her family does too.
I consume books all of the time, children's books, even for my own personal library. So I'm kind of always, reading books. I always read books to my kids. So I kind of have an idea of what kinds of books that they enjoy, what kinds of books I enjoy as well. And we'll go to other sources like I See Me Bookstore, see what books they have. I go to Lee and Low Books, which is a multicultural, I think, publishing company. I will go there and see what's on their reading list. So again, that my ask and what I'm providing is all very intentional.
Why is this necessary, Kelly? Why is that for the Black children, Black community, that they need these books?
I think that it is important because we all know how important it is for kids to be able to see themselves in what they read. But I think more broadly, it's about honoring our Black children. It's about valuing our Black children. It's about normalizing their good, because I think that often dominant narratives about Black children are not positive. And that's really frustrating to me. And so, again, I think it's important for us to normalize these things, for not just for Black children, but for all children, to see that, they can be the smart kid and the scientist and the president and the detective and the superhero in all of these books. So for that reason, I think that it's really important. And I also believe, there's absolutely research out there that the more children are able to connect with what they read, that they will become better readers. And so we know these are all things that need to be addressed. So it's important to our community for a lot of reasons.
Yes. What about how you grew up, your home environment? Did you read a lot of books when you were growing up?
Yeah, so I did. I very much enjoyed going to the library, and I would pride myself in saying that I went to the library. There was something that for for me that I associated something very positive about that. I enjoyed being there. I was fascinated by the fact that there were so many books. It was just kind of a new world for me. I remember having a Winnie the Pooh book, an old Winnie the Pooh book, a thick book. And I remember actually pretending to be an author. Like I was trying to pretending to be an author. And I would literally like write the same things that were in the book. Like that was an experience for me. But I associate literacy and not just reading to a lot of parts of my upbringing. I think about doing recipes with my mom. She's an awesome cook. So I remember those times. I remember seeing the Wheel of Fortune puzzles, trying to guess Wheel of Fortune puzzles before my grandparents did. They faithfully watched Wheel of Fortune in the evening. And so those are all of the things that I associate with just literacy, not necessarily just the reading part of it, but literacy. So I kind of look at literacy in a maybe a broader sense than maybe what the school would say it is.
That's good. Libraries are powerful. I just love that.
I remember my grandfather, who was a pastor, had a back porch that was enclosed, and he had tons of biblical content books, and that was kind of a little library to me as well. And was very drawn to like watching him write his sermon, listening to the stories that he would tell. He was an incredible storyteller and would always have some sort of a story as a part of his message. So I feel like, you know, literacy was always around me. I think about, you know, going to Sunday school and learning my Easter speech and being a Sunday school teacher. And so for me, literacy is such a social practice that I often associate these things with, you know, with friends and family and experiences. So literacy was a huge part of my upbringing. The experiences that I referred to as a child is something that I feel like everybody has, even if they don't have books at home, or, you know, maybe if they're not all around literate people, that they're still having experiences with literacy in some sort of way. Thinking about literacy in a broader sense, to me, allows us to really be able to be more inclusive. You know, kids are very aware of their ability to read, because it always seems to be tied to, I think, their identity even as a student. Again, I'm always thinking of ways to level the playing field. I think about how, you know, often what we read provides something new or something different or a different experience for us. It kind of opens up a lot of different worlds to us. And so I feel like, you know, like you said, like reading provides access to those things, and it allows us to be maybe broader thinkers, or to consider other people, or consider differences between others. So I just feel like literacy is so tied to that, because I mean, there are a lot of things that are in books and on the internet, and so that's really what I mean by that.
That's good. I was thinking today about how literacy can be a preventive measure against, you know, racism and prejudice.
Yeah.
So when you
Absolutely.
All this turmoil right now with the riots and you know, with the George Floyd, you know, just getting into, if we didn't have these barriers, if we could see another person through a book, like reading memoirs, different cultures. I remember reading a memoir about an Asian family, That's
Yes.
wonderful. So that would remove any type of prejudice. I could relate to them. Like I feel like a
Sure.
vicarious relationship with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I
Absolutely.
go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop and her metaphor of
Mm-hmm.
books providing mirrors, windows, and glass sliding doors. And that's really,
Yeah, that's good.
that's the experience of reading. And that's why that it does provide access to cultures and people and situations and point of references in time that are different. And again, expand the way we think, expand our ability to understand and empathize with each other. So that it's just key and especially important right now.
Kelly, I'm wondering if you're going to
Yes.
curl up with a good book, tell me your setting. What are you reading? What's it doing for you?
It's so interesting that you asked that question because I do look at the ways that literacy are tied to family and our understandings of family and how families um, engage in literacy. I'm always thinking about that and how the kid is the child is like the focal point of that. I'm often drawn to books that have like a sort of a family, especially like a history of Black families, kind of a reference. I write. That's my therapy. And so I'm all I enjoy just the actual physical practice of writing. I still love pencils. I'm writing about maybe my next book. So my literacy practice that makes me feel whole and feel good is writing. I probably write in some regard almost every day.
Hmm. Well, that's wonderful. So
Yeah.
that's your uh, moment of solace and calm.
Yes.
Curl up with your notebook.
Yes. And because I'm so intrigued with children's literature, I also read a lot of children's books just because I want to know what's out there.
Mhm.
I am also thinking about writing styles when I'm looking at when I'm looking at children's books. And so that's, again, that's a daily practice for me. And actually, Miss McKissack said that if you're a writer, you got to write every day. And so that's just something, again, that I do. And I believe that it's probably something that is reflective of those moments that I talked about watching my grandfather write his sermons. And so, yeah, so I think about how my experiences with literacy are often for me very tied to my upbringing and my family. And so that's probably why it feels really good too.
I really thank you for joining me. I do want to ask you a question about
Sure.
your literacy journey. You've written the one book. Tell me the title, The Sun.
Yes, it's like sunshine on an otherwise miserable day. And I love sharing this story. I was talking about how Miss McKissack had mentored me. I had her contact information for maybe 6 months or so before I decided, okay, Kel, get it together. You got to reach out to this woman. You know how awesome, she is, and you want to develop a relationship with her. And so the day that I called her, it literally had been like raining all day that day and the day before.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over to my parents' house and I was there and was talking with my mom, and I said, I'm gonna call Miss McKissack today. And so I did, and I called her up and she answered the phone, and she's just so delightful. And so I said to her, I'm like, well, you don't know who I am, but I think you know my dad, Eddie Byrd. And she's like, your dad is Eddie Byrd? She's like, yes, I remember Eddie Byrd. And so we just talked like we had known each other forever. She was just that easy to talk to. And so we were on the phone maybe like 20 or 30 minutes. And like I said, it had been raining all day that day. And she said to me, our conversation was just like sunshine on an otherwise miserable day. And that just stuck with me. And so when she passed, I literally thought of that, pulled out my laptop and just started typing. And part of what I was writing was a letter to her. But through all of that, the concept for this book came to me. And so this book is just so near and dear to my heart because of that experience. And so, yeah, I'm a fan, not just
I love it
because I wrote the book, but the story behind it.
I know you're part of the St. Louis Black Authors Group.
I am, yes.
And the collective of authors who write children's books.
Yes.
And I was going to ask about how you encourage other authors. You being an author yourself, how do you encourage, you already talked about how you encourage your children to read, and write things down.
Sure. When people come to me, I've had several people come to me and say, that they wanted to write, but they didn't know if they could do it or if they would have time. And,
right.
I've always said to people that if you have something in your heart and you feel like it was, that this is something that you want to do, you should just do it. And I always tell people, if you have any questions, come to me. We'll walk through it together, because I think it's important for people to kind of fulfill these things that they want to do, but also to put the content out there. And being in that organization is really wonderful, and being around those other authors that have the same ideas and views around the importance of literacy, getting these books out to kids. That's encouraging me too. I'm actually working on another book right now.
Of course.
So, yeah. I have like 3 or 4 floating in my head, but this one I'm working on now.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing your literacy journey with us. I believe you've helped a lot of people, and just sharing your story of your background and how you encourage other authors. So thank you so much, Dr. Kelly Byrd. I got to close off with putting that doctor in.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this platform. And I am a fan of your work. This is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So I applaud you and support you in your work as well.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for joining me with Literacy Journeys with Linda. We'll see you next time. And be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can hear more interviews of wonderful people like Kelly and others who are talking about their literacy journey. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.